It's now a distinct honor and a privilege to introduce our keynote speaker for this evening, Dana Perkins. Stand up, please. Sorry. I would like to read a little bio on Dana, but let me say this first. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. Dana, I had the golden opportunity to meet Dana about 5 years ago. He flew a Prowler into Spirit Airport for refuel, and we've stayed in touch with each other, and so that's how this all worked out tonight. I really appreciate it. So, a little bit nervous, sorry. Captain Dana W. Perkins is a native of Roseburg, Oregon. He enlisted in the Delayed Entry Program in March 1985 and then completed initial training at Great Lakes Naval Recruit Training Command and MMBTA School in Great Lakes, Illinois. From there, he completed Naval Nuclear Power School in Orlando, Florida, and Nuclear Power Prototype at the Idaho National Engineering Laboratory. After being selected for and accepting an ROTC scholarship, he attended Oregon State University, completing a BA in Agricultural Resource Economics in June 1991. After graduation and commissioning through the Naval ROTC program, he reported for flight school in Pensacola, Florida, and was designated a Naval Flight Officer in October 1993. In January 94, then Lieutenant Junior Grade Perkins reported to VAQ 129 at NAS Whidbey Island, Washington for fleet replacement training in the EA-6B Prowler. Following Fleet Replacement Electronic Countermeasures Officer ECMO training, he joined the Shadowhawks of VAQ 141 in 1995 and completed a Med and Persian Gulf deployment aboard USS Theodore Roosevelt with carrier Air Wing 8, flying combat operations in support of Operation Deny Flight and Southern Watch from both CVN 71 and Alviano Air Base, Italy. His second cruise was in 1997, again with carrier Air Wing 8, except this time it was aboard USS John F. Kennedy, CV-67, again to the Med and Persian Gulf, flying combat operations in support of Operation Southern Watch. After serving with the Shadowhawks, then Lieutenant Perkins completed Prowler Tactics Instructor Level 5 training and reported to the Naval Strike Air Warfare Center in Fallon, Nevada for the next 3 years. At NSAWC, he promoted to Advanced Training Phase Program Manager for his last 2 years before transferring to the Navy Reserve in March of 2001. After a short stint with the Navy Reserve Augment Unit in St. Louis, Combined Naval Forces Korea, he joined the VAQ 209 Star Warriors in July 2001. With the Star Warriors, he has deployed to Encirclic Air Base Turkey in 2002 for combat operations in support of Operation Northern Watch. He also deployed to Aalborg, Denmark in 2004, Iwakuni, Japan, if I said that wrong, sorry, 2005, Al-Assad Air Base, Iraq in 2006 for combat operations in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom, and Bagram Air Base, Afghanistan in 08, 9, and 10, and 2011 for combat operations in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. During his tenure, he rose to commanding officer, and the squadron earned the 2005 Department of Defense Family Readiness Award, multiple Commander, Naval Air Force Reserve Noel Davis Battle Efficiency Award, Battle E, Safety S, and Golden Wrench Awards. He now serves as the Assistant Chief of Staff and a SEAD instructor at the Naval Strike and Air Warfare at NAS Fallon, Nevada. In his civilian life, Captain Perkins has been employed by the Boeing Company in St. Louis, Missouri since January 2001 and has led the Crew Vehicle Interface Design Integrated Product Team for the EA-18G Growler, served as the contractor flight crew during EA-18G developmental flight test, and now works in flight operations as an EA-18G, F-18, and F-15 weapons systems operator, performing initial quality certification flights as the aircraft complete production. In August 2003, as part of the Learning Together program, he also completed his Master's in Business Administration from the University of Missouri. Captain Perkins has accumulated over 3,800 flight hours and 300 arrested landings. His personal awards include the Meritorious Service Medal, Air Medal, 10 awards, Navy and Marine Corps Combination Medal with Combat V, Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal, 2 awards, and various unit and service awards. Captain Dana Perkins.
It is a picture of me in front of my squadron at Bagram Air Base. My Master Chief and my XO are right up next to me, and then that's my Chief's Mess and my wardroom behind me. And that is the mighty EA-6B Prowler, as you can see it back there. The E-18G Growler, which is designed and built here in St. Louis, as Dan was saying, is replacing that airplane. anyway, that's a picture of me with my squadron. Today, I'd like to talk about the E-18G Growler. As Dan said, it's a derivative of the F-18F Super Hornet. This particular airplane is designed to replace the EA-6B. Its primary mission is electronic attack. So in electronic attack, we have 3 tactics. We do deny, degrade, or deceive. And this allows us to do that in a lot more capable platform than the EA-6B Prowler. Okay, next chart. Okay, radar and communications jamming is our primary mission. We're the primary airplane for the Navy that does that. Deny, degrade, deceive. We have a receiver suite on there, ALQ-218 receiver suite, but our primary job is to do electronic attack. That influencing the electromagnetic spectrum to deny the enemy free reign of that particular spectrum. That's what our job is. So we use all of our information to figure out where the enemy's using the electromagnetic spectrum, and then we decide how we're going to either exploit or deny that capability. That's the primary mission of the EA-18G and the EA-6B Prowler. The aircraft, the EA-18G, is the most tactical, capable electronic attack airplane ever built. The Navy's primary one before that was the A-7, and the Air Force had the EF-111 aircraft. They both use the ALQ-99 jamming system. That's the system that puts out the energy. And we carried that ALQ-99 jamming system onto the E-18G. There is now a new program in work called the Next Generation Jammer, NGJ, and its job is to replace the ALQ-99 pods. But if you think about it, our job is to influence the electromagnetic spectrum with noise. We have a great piece of gear called the ALQ-99. It's been working since the 60s. The problem is some of our parts are getting a little old and having a little trouble keeping them up. So we're trying to get a new next generation jammer. Close to ILC, I believe in 2020 is the first increment. There's a couple increments they're going to do it in. Raytheon has the lead on that particular program. What is our job? Enhance survivability above the Prowler. So we have more wing stations. In the Prowler, we only had 5 wing stations. In the Growler, we have 11 wing stations. We also have afterburning engines. I call that my get out of jail free card. So when you're low and slow and you want to be high and fast, you just go to afterburner. You can't spend all day there, but it does to get you out of jail pretty free. We also have the ability to carry HARM, 3 pods, 2 drops, 2 HARM, 2 AMRAAM, and the wingtip pods, and that allows us to provide our own aircraft defense, air-to-air defense. So we can carry some AMRAAM and influence the enemy to stay away from us, where in the past, with a Prowler, we required HAVA-P, high value airborne asset protection, HAVA-P to come with us, and this allows us to get away from that. We also carry the APG-79 air-to-air radar, and that is flat out cheating. I don't know how any other way to put it. You used to have to work to keep track of where people were. With the APG-79, you turn it on, you set it up to what you want, and it just tells you what everybody's out there. So it is a great piece of gear. It is a game changer. It's no longer much work at all to find a guy well outside of your weapons max range and then target him and employ assets right against him. So you can know where he is long before he even knows where he is. He even knows where you are. A lot better self-protect. We also it did something called the INCANS, and that is another piece of magic. Interference canceller is what INCANS stands for, and INCANS gives us the ability to use this high-power jammer, this high-power energy source, and then still use sensitive receivers next to it. So in the past, when we had jamming, low-band jamming on the Prowler, the low-band jammer actually uses the whole airframe as part of the antenna and the people inside. So it uses the whole airplane as the antenna, and what that does is it causes us to not be able to receive some communications. So we had some workarounds for that, but with INCANS, we had the ability to at least free up 1 frequency, at least 1, and when we freed that up, we could maintain communications, and it dramatically increased our capability. Interference canceller, another game changer. So far above and beyond the Prowler in that particular capability. Next turn. Oh, that goes the wrong way. Thank you. All right, thanks. All right, so what did we do different from the Super Hornet? That's the question I most often get asked. besides the great software CVI design that Carl and Rick and I helped build, besides that, some of the hardware we did is we took the gun out and we put in a gun bay pallet. So everything in green here is a modification to the Super Hornet. The green, we took the gun out, we put in the gun bay pallet. It's a whole bunch of electronics that allows us to do the ALQ 218 and ALQ 99 and ALQ 218 receiving and jamming. We put in a MAC system. We modified these ALQ 99 pods. We took that football that you saw in the back of the Prowler, we cut it in half, we put it on each wingtip, and then we put some more antennas throughout the airplane to help us with that long baseline interferometer to catch those low band signals. The propulsion system, we talked about it, 2G afterburning engines, flight ops. The flight controls are digital flight controls, so they're not fly-by-wire. They're all fly-by-wire. There's nothing attached anymore. Air conditioning. This is a crazy idea. The Prowler is hot when it's hot and cold when it's cold. So we call it environmental control. But here, this one we have a great cooling system, and only when on super hot days when you have the jet is what's called hot sink. It's got a lot of temperature in it. You require it to work, but easily after 15 minutes you can get it to you're almost cold in the airplane. What else can I tell you?
What's the orange?
What's the orange? The orange is fuel tanks. Thank you. So that's all the spots we hide fuel in the airplane. So a lot of what you can see what's holding that up is the wings and the fuselage fuel. You can carry about 13,000 pounds of fuel internal without any drop tanks, and then when you add drop tanks on, you get 2,000 to 3,000 depending on the size of your drop tanks you can add. You can carry 5 wet, so we can carry an extra 10,000 pounds of fuel. And on-station time is about 2.5 to 3 hours with internal fuel. So if you add that, you can keep adding time and adding distance to that. Normal flights for a Prowler is about 1.5, so flights for about an hour and a half. Without refueling, carrying that normal load, about an hour and a half. The Prowler is based on the A6. The A6 required one person to do communication and navigation. We can do all that now with a handheld Garmin, and we all know how to talk on the radio. So we have to have, I was talking with Rick earlier, we used to be happy when we landed and we were only 6 or 7 miles off. Hey, look at that, we're only 7 miles off. That's great. Now, if we come back and we're off by more than 0.2, we're going to gripe the INS and GPS and we're going to have a look at it. So you don't need that. So in the front seat of a Prowler, you had one guy for communication navigation, and he also employed the harm. And we can take that one out simply by the computer. In the back seat, we had one display, and it was monochrome, and it was identical to the one sitting next to you. So you had very little HOTAS, and you had one display. And you spent a lot of time working with the software, reloading it and resetting it up, and trying to make sense out of the receivers, what the receivers were telling you. With the new higher power computer, it tells you not only, we used to be able to say, there's something bad coming from over here. And that was enough, because we had an area weapon, a jammer that just can put energy down that. Well, now I can tell you what it is and where it is, and I can tailor my jamming so that I'm not being so wasteful. The goal in electronic attack is affected radiated power on the victim radar. That's the goal. There's many ways to do that. You can stand far away and use a pinpoint, or you can get real close and just barrage. It's a lot like blocking in football. It's really not that sexy, not that exciting. Whoever has the most power wins. We just push. But that's our job, is electronic attack, to go in and do that. The big nose in the Prowler was hard to see through. You're absolutely right. Plus, there's some canopy bows in the Prowler, which limited your vision, which you don't have in the Super Hornet. Also, the angle of attack. The Prowler was required to be a lot of stick and throttle, where the Hornet you can almost auto lock it up and fly it most of the way in. So, a much safer, much more capable airplane, much more digital, much more forgiving flight controls. In the Prowler, if you get into spin, you have to put in spin recovery controls. In a Super Hornet, your job is to release. Stop touching, and I will roll out. The computer's saying, leave me alone, I'll take care of you. But that's the fix. And most of the fixes, most of the emergencies we have with unusual attitude, it's release. Release the stick, get your feet off the rudder pedals, and the airplane will roll itself out. So that's what we do, that's how we use that. So a little easier to see, different angle of attack, a lot easier flight controls, afterburning engines. Remember, that's your get out of jail free. I'm low and slow and I want to be high and fast. Boom, I just hit the afterburners.
does the airplane know if you're incapacitated?
Does the airplane know if we're incapacitated? We do not have an auto incapacitation detection system. No, sir. We have some cabin altitude detectors. It tells us the cabin altitude's gone up above 20,000 feet. We have an OBOX D grade. If you're taking oxygen in, you can get a D grade, but none of those tell you how you're doing. They just tell you how the aircraft's doing, trying to help you.
So it could not take over, like the F-16 could take over for you and something else.
We do not have an ground auto collision avoidance system, or I think GCAS. I'm not saying that right. Collision avoidance system. Yeah, ground collision avoidance system, GCAS system. We do not in the Super Hornet or Growler. Sir.
I was just wondering how many radar installations you can take on at once.
How many radar installations we can take on? It depends. It depends on the number of pods you're carrying, the frequency bands that you're trying to cover, and then how many. A lot of the jamming is based on the footprint of the antenna. So if I have 3 bad guys that line up perfectly, I can get them all with one antenna. But if you're spread out, I'm going to have to try multiple antennas, which is going to cost me how many I can go after. So my answer to your question is, as always, it depends. But if it lines up, you can go after multiple threats at the same time. And with next-gen jammer, that should increase dramatically. So what is the difference over the G to the Super Hornet or to the E and F? You can see increases. We've got empty weight. We went up about 1,300 pounds. And to do that, we also increased our bring back. So bring back is defined as what you have to be at the back of the boat with and be able to land with it. A Super Hornet was designed to carry bombs, take off, bombs and fuel. It's going to drop the bombs, it's going to use the fuel, it's going to come back light. A Growler is going to carry jamming pods and fuel, and it's going to come back, it's going to burn the fuel, but it's still going to have the jamming pods. So in order to make that more feasible for the life of the airplane, we increased that carrier base return weight by 4,000 pounds, basically 4 pods. Pods are about 1,000 pounds apiece. 4 pods, and that allows us to come back and we can carry the same amount of fuel. Why is fuel important? That's how many looks you get at the deck before you have to go hit a tanker or you have to bingo to the beach. So the goal is to have 3 to 4 looks before you have to go to the beach or you have to go to the tanker. So that increased. We did a couple things to increase that. We increased the centerline struts so that it could hold more weight and recover with that. And then we did some testing. I don't remember exactly what it was to take us from 44,000 pounds of bring back to 48,000 pounds of bring back. That's the largest increase. You can see the wing tanks. You can see, keep going. So what we also did, we took the ALQ-99, we took the receiver suite, and we put it on the EATG. Here's the, and then we integrated it all together. So one of the things about having 4 people in an airplane is you don't have to integrate anything. You can dedicate a single person for a single mission. Well, you can't do that in the Growler. We don't have enough people. All right, so what we integrated it. So in the past, when I was in the Prowler, our comm jamming suite called the USQ-113 comm jammer, we had one person and that's all he did. And he did not talk with the other guys who were doing the radar jamming part of the mission because he was busy working on his part. Well, now we were able to integrate those so that the communication countermeasure set, think of it as a Bearcat scanner on steroids. Communication countermeasure set, what that allows us to do is integrate it completely with our ALQ-218 receivers, which then allows us to use our ALQ-99 jamming pods and integrate it all together to make it go from 2 to 1, or 4 to 2, excuse me. And allows us to do that mission. So that's how we did that. We integrated a lot of stuff. And like we said, the crew vehicle interface, the part that I like the most. We also included the helmet in that. We did not have a helmet, nor do we have a HUD in a Prowler. So I've now flown, I got over 3,000 hours in a Prowler. I've got about 800 hours in a Super Hornet, and I am a HUD cripple. I can't do anything without my HUD, and I can't do anything without my helmet. I don't know how people can fly without it. I don't know how you do that, so it's amazing. Anyway, it's a great system. We talked about the in-cans, what it does for us, and then we also have a satellite capability, and we brought that over from the Prowler. The Prowler had that as well. The difference is that we take that information, and instead of in the Prowler, we would get it on a laptop, and we would type it into the Commodore 64. Here, it goes right into that Intel Pentium 4. So that allows us to do it that much faster. Here's that crew vehicle interface design. So I told you we had one display, a monochrome display in the back of a Prowler for the guy to do his job. We have 5 displays in the back of a Growler. This is the back seat here. This is your engine fuel display, left and right identical DDIs. That's an 8x10 big screen TV, and that's a touch sensitive upfront control. So that's what we've got in the back of a Growler. Jeez, get my Growler developed. That's what we've got in the back of the Growler. And then in the front seat, we got the same cockpit that's in every 480, what do we have, 2 Super Hornets that we've got out there, 480 Super Hornets. And then this is the field of view. I told you that we were talking about the field of view. This is your field of view out the front of a Super Hornet. It's almost clear. I mean, it's just, you can see wherever you need to see. So, also, if you've seen it, it sits like this, but when you fly, we tilt up a little bit so the back seater can actually see over the front. So it's a little better visibility. And there are things you can do. You put the nav FLIR on the upfront control, and then you can see what the pilot's looking at right out the front. So another capability that we didn't have. We didn't have a nav FLIR in the Prowler. Didn't have a HUD. Didn't have a helmet. Didn't have GPS. Or excuse me, we didn't have MIDS. We did have GPS. Not integrated. We still had to keep track of where we were in GPS and keep updating. And then that workload reduction allows us to go from 4 to 2 in that crew coordination. So a lot of stuff we did in the Prowler was verbal. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. The guy could not see what you're doing. A lot of the stuff that Carl's team and the crew vehicle interface team did was use visual to transfer information. So when he moves his cursor, I see it on my display. When he hooks something, I see it. When I hook something, he sees it. We don't have to say, do you see this guy? You can see what this guy's doing. And visual communication allows you to speak that much faster and pass that much more information. Next. Here's that game changer I told you, electronically scanned array. So an APG-73 mechanically scanned, it scans pretty fast. That's not bad, but this one can do, it's like a camera flash. It's the best way I can describe it to you. So instead of scanning and then building a picture, it goes pink, pink, pink. And it can see so far that the limiting factor is not the array, it's the computer to process the information and display it to you. That's the limiting factor in that particular piece of gear. It's cheating. There's no other way to put it. That is cheating. No array maintenance predicted for 10,000 hours of use. Solid state electronics versus mechanically scanned. 10,000 hours. If you've seen some of the legacy Hornets, they're doing 15, 20 flights and then they have to modify the array. This one we'd expect to put the nose on, we can almost weld the nose on. We're that close. And the difference is you have 2005 technology, 1995 technology versus 1970s technology. You know how often electronics upgrade so fast from there, so that's not unreasonable to think that's going to work for you. Next. The in-cans we talked about, that interference canceller, another piece of magic that we never dreamed it was even possible. We had a very loud transmitter and a very sensitive receiver, and we could do both at the same time. That's magic. There's no other way to put it. Next. We talked about the engines, FADEC, fuel. So basically, once you get the engine turning, the fuel control takes over, and then you're just a voting member of what you like the engine to do. The throttles aren't connected directly to the engine. You say, I want to go faster. It says, okay, based on your inlet temperature, your current fuel flow, based on your throttle position and your current airspeed, I'm going to add this much fuel to your engine. And then it's going to put it in, and then it doesn't allow you to do things like stall. Doesn't allow it to get in a situation where it can't keep building thrust. So great engine, great piece of gear. We can carry the HAR missile, AGM-88 HAR missile, same one we can carry on the Prowler. Oh, by the way, that program has a new upgrade called ARGM, Advanced Anti-Radiation Guided Missile. ARGM, and that's just basically that same outer mold line with a more capable computer in it, more capable sensor in it. ARGM, today we use this as a threatening weapon. As the enemy comes up, and if they stay up, we can target them with this weapon. With ARGM, if they come up, we can locate them, and then they can go down and whatever they want. We can prosecute them that way as well. So another game changer. Next, we talked about the wing stations. This is a standard load. You said it was a single ship or multi-ship. This is a standard single ship load. One of our primary missions was called standoff jamming, and in that mission we don't cover a single protected entity. We might cover multiple protected entities at one time. That's something no one else can do. throughout the whole frequency range, cover broad area jamming. That's something the Growler can do, and the AOQ99 pods and the AOQ218 receiver suite is how we target that. And that standoff jamming mission is what we do, I'm going to say, almost half or even more of the time. We also do a mod escort, where we go almost to the target, and we also do an escort mission, where we would take the strike group all the way to the target and out. Those are much smaller numbers when we do that. Most of the time we're doing standoff jamming. Full spectrum AEA allows us to identify and move from find the enemy, determine how they're trying to use the electromagnetic spectrum, exploit them if that's what we want to do. And by that I mean, if you make a noise and I'm listening, I locate you, and I can assign assets, or I can stiff arm you. I can just say, there's a bad guy. As long as we don't go over that, you can go around. Once I know who he is and where he is, then we can decide how we want to prosecute that. 360 degrees, full spectrum, is why you want the EA-18G. That's what we do that nobody else does. And like I said before, the VAQ community, the guys that are flying this, have been working this problem since the 60s. So we know what the enemy's doing. We have a group called UDES at Point Mugu, California, who does nothing but develops techniques that we use to go against the enemy. So if you want to get into this game, no problem. There's plenty of work to do. I'm not doubting that they can't find work. The electromagnetic spectrum is a huge problem, but they got to bring the tools to the fight, and you got to get in the game, and you got to get these techniques for this transmitter, this new transmitter you got. And then you got to integrate it in your system, and then you got to know how the enemy's going to use that against you. There's this thing called home on jam capability, where if you're making a loud noise, guess what? I know where you. If I'm yelling, you know where I'm at. So it's home on jam capability. So you have to figure out how you're going to defeat that, and then you have to have tactics, techniques, procedures, and training, which we've been doing full time. The VAQ community's been doing full time for the whole spectrum. That's why the EA-18G is such a big deal, and it covers you regardless of what your signature is, regardless of your location. The biggest problem we have, and this is on us, the VAQ community, is on station time. We can't stay up there indefinitely, and if we could, then there's nowhere the enemy could go for the electromagnetic spectrum in a local area ever. We could dominate that spectrum the whole time, and nobody else could do that. The commander's intent is to deny this guy this capability. So he's out there trying to use the electromagnetic spectrum, possibly to target our guys, and we're going to deny him that capability and make him go to some other form of communication, which we'll then exploit. Or we can deny that too and make him go to a third set and turn around. It is not unusual in Iraq and Afghanistan to have the Prowler or Growler show up, start to influence the electromagnetic spectrum, and have the enemy stand down.
Because they pick you up.
They know that they can't talk anymore. And why would you go into a fight when you can't talk or see or hear because you're being jammed? So you hide and run. So that is a standard, that happens routinely. A new part of our job is what's called information operations. Not a new part, but a part we've been focusing a lot of lately. Information operations, and that's influencing what the enemy picks up and when. The flexibility, a small logistical footprint. With a Prowler, based on the A6, we had to bring our own start cart, had to bring an electrical cart. Everywhere you went, you had to bring these with you. Dan knows, because we had to start me a couple, five times.
Pretty involved.
It's not, you can't, with a Super Hornet and a Growler, it's got an auxiliary power unit, an APU. You turn that on, that gives you electricity, that allows you to turn an engine. So all you really need with a Growler or a Super Hornet is fuel. So when you land, you just need fuel. Whereas the Prowler required a lot more system to work on. Future capabilities. This is another part of my job now that we're winding down production, or in the last half of production at least, is what can we do to make this airplane better? But we're going to take all those displays. Remember we had 5 displays in the back, considering putting them all into one, making it touch sensitive, making it HD. So basically we're taking your TV, it was an analog TV, making it 1080p, touch sensitive right up in front. And then we put the same displays on it, same formats, then we add some different formats to build situational awareness. We do a lot of stuff today based on the way we've done it in the past, and it's easy for people, and there are benefits to doing it that way, but kids today don't think about, oh, I have to hear something in the electromagnetic spectrum, identify what it is, and then once I know what it is, what I want to do for it. Whereas if the computer knows what it is, we'll just put a picture of it for you. And then you go, oh, that's a threat. That's a threat I need to go after. They want their HOTAS today. They want music going. They want all kinds of stuff. And so you got to know your customer. Our customer is your 16-year-old, 10-year-old son or daughter who's playing video games. And they get in the back of the Super Hornet and go, what is this? This is 2000 technology. That's old. So this is allowing us to get ahead of that, the large screen display. We're also doing increases on the helmet and other things. And like we said, we have found the limiting factor in the Super Hornet and the Growler, and it's the operator. The operator, I can send him more information, he or she, more information than they can assimilate. So we record everything, so you can always go back and dissect it later. But if you want to know information, which information do you want, Dana? I want to know what I need to know, when I need to know it. Besides that, I don't care what's going on. So that's the task we give the guys, and they're like, okay, well, what are you doing now? Well, right now I'm trying to defend this guy. Okay, so based on that guy, here's the threats he's going up against. Here's what he's vulnerable to. Here's what you can do against those threats. Here, I'm already doing it, computer. You can say I'm already doing it and just telling you that it's happening. Because by the time they tell you what's happening and you assimilate what's going on, something else is happening. I equate it to like trying to watch 100 channels of TV. You ever tried to do this? You change the channel. Oh, that looks like a good show. Oh, that looks like a good show. By the time you finish, you get all the way through. You decide you want to watch Gilligan's Island on channel 4. It's not over, and there's another show on. So now you got to go through it all again. So it's the simulation of the data. That's what we're trying to get to. We use visual. We use oral. We use pre-planned, or basically your memory of what we've done in the past. That's how we try to get that information to you. But still, cannot get all the information we want to get to one person. So we're fusing it together, and now we're trying to integrate it even more, which is getting us to these next displays. Sir?
Is there anything about the Prowler that you missed?
Oh, I missed that beautiful airplane. Yes, that flying turkey leg. The Prowler, if it had something wrong with it, you could usually work around it. The Hornet, if it tells you you're done, you're done. So there was, that's probably the biggest thing is you could get in the airplane, well, just do this, have them do that, have them twist this, have them take it out and shake the box and put it back in. You can't do any of that in the Super Hornet. The MSP code comes up, says that you can't fly that day, you're done. You got to get a new airplane, you got to go change the box. Now the box has changed much faster. I'll give you an example. It took 12 to 14 people, 1.5 shifts to change one engine on a Prowler. So 12 to 14 people, think 12 to 18 hours to change one engine. 3 people can change it in about 3 hours in a Super Hornet. So which one's easier to turn on? You can change engines all day. Just gonna throw it in. So, and that reason is because we've gone so far with the technology of how to do maintenance. And I knock the Prowler, but I love it. But it was built in the 60s. Great technology, worked great. It's just we get so much more capability now. Most of it's in the computing, but